All right, so we're diving into some pretty choppy waters today, huh?
Yeah.
We're talking about Arsenal and the elephant in the room, or I guess the chant in the stadium,
Hmm.
Arteta out, right?
Right.
It's getting louder,
Yeah, definitely.
especially after that draw with Liverpool. I mean, come on, Liverpool was playing with 10 men for what felt like the entire match.
Yeah, most of it. Yeah.
So we thought we'd head straight to the source and see what the fans are saying, and there's no better place for that than the Arsenal FC subreddit.
Right.
And this one thread in particular that we're looking at is simply titled,
Oh, yeah.
Arteta out. No messing around there, right?
Straight to the point. Yeah.
So we're gonna try to figure this out. Like, is this a justified verdict or is this just fans being fans?
Yeah. Are they overreacting?
Right, because last season was amazing,
Yeah.
but
Expectations were high coming into this season.
exactly. And so, maybe there's a little bit of a hangover from
Mhm.
that incredible season.
Yeah. And what's so interesting about this is that it goes beyond just like the tactical side of it.
Right.
It really taps into the sense of like Arsenal's identity. Like, who were they?
Right, for sure.
They almost tasted glory last season. And now it's like any little slip up, any sign that they might be going backwards,
Yeah.
it just triggers this huge reaction.
Yeah, it's like they got a glimpse of the promised land and now they're terrified of being dragged back into
Yeah, the wilderness.
the footballing wilderness.
Exactly. And that's what makes these Reddit threads so fascinating. You see these fault lines appear in the fan base.
Oh, yeah.
You got those who are still, trusting the process. And then
Yeah.
you got those who are like, wait a minute, is this process actually going anywhere?
Right. Yeah. Is the
Really?
process broken?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at the evidence then. Let's hear what the Arteta out camp is saying. What are they actually accusing him of?
All right. So one of the main things you see popping up over and over again is this lack of firepower up front. They're calling the attack abysmal, basically saying that they rely way too much on set pieces to get goals.
Ouch.
Yeah. And there's this sentiment that if you take away their goals from corners and free kicks, they'd
Yeah.
be,
Right.
struggling to stay out of the bottom half of the table.
Wow, that's a pretty harsh assessment.
It is, but some fans have actually crunched the numbers.
Yeah.
And they found that a huge chunk of their goals
Yeah.
do come directly from set pieces.
Okay, so it's not just like a feeling. It's
No, there's actual data behind it.
Oh, okay, wow. So I mean, look, being good at set pieces isn't a bad thing, right?
No, not at all.
But if that's like your main way of scoring,
Right.
then yeah, it does make you wonder like what's going on with the rest of their attack.
Right. Like, are they creating enough chances from open play?
Right. Are they fluid? Are they dynamic?
Exactly.
Yeah, I see what they're saying. It's kind of like in basketball, relying on a free throw specialist to win you games.
Yeah.
Like at some point you got to be able to score from the field, right?
Yeah, you need a more well-rounded offense.
Exactly. And this kind of ties into another big criticism, which is the lack of trophies, right?
Ah, yes, the silverware drought.
The drought.
This is Arteta's 5th season now.
5th season.
And yeah, there have been some positive signs, some progress for sure, but that trophy cabinet is still looking pretty bare.
It is, and for some fans, that's the bottom line.
Right. That's the ultimate measure of success.
Yeah, trophies.
And right now, Arteta isn't delivering on that front.
Yeah, that's tough to argue with because trophies are tangible proof that you're moving in the right direction.
They are.
But what about the argument that he just needs more time? That Rome wasn't built in a day.
Well, that's the classic pro-Arteta argument, the give him time argument.
Right.
And they have a point. He inherited a bit of a mess. The squad needed a major overhaul.
Yeah.
And you have to admit, he's brought back a defensive solidity that was
Yeah.
sorely lacking before he arrived.
Oh, definitely.
So it's that whole trust the process mantra,
Right, but is stability enough?
Right.
At some point, don't you need to see that stability translate into results, into trophies?
That's the million-dollar question, and that's where the debate really heats up.
Yeah.
The pro-Arteta side, they argue that true success takes time. You have to build a foundation first.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's about like fine-tuning, adding the right pieces to the puzzle.
Okay.
They believe he's already shown he can turn things around, and they have faith that he can do it again.
So it's a classic clash of perspectives here.
Yeah.
The impatient fans who want silverware now versus those who believe in the long-term vision.
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's dig a little deeper into some of the specific complaints because I'm seeing a lot of frustration with Arteta's in-game management,
Oh, yeah.
especially his substitutions.
This is where things get really interesting because now we're getting into the tactical weeds.
Right.
Fans are pointing to specific moments in games like that substitution against Liverpool in the 70th minute.
Huh.
Bringing on a defensive midfielder when they're chasing a goal.
Right. They needed a goal.
Exactly. So it's like, did that signal a lack of attacking intent? Was he too afraid of losing instead of going for the win? These are the questions that are fueling the Arteta outfire.
So it's not just about the results, it's about how those results are achieved.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like judging a chef not just on the final dish, but on their technique in the kitchen.
Precisely.
And there's another accusation that's starting to gain traction, and that is that Arteta is too loyal to underperforming players.
Oh, yeah, you see that a lot.
Like he's showing the same kind of blind faith that Wenger had in his later years.
Some are even saying that.
And are there any names in particular that keep coming up?
Gabriel Jesus and Gabriel Martinelli are the two that you see most often.
Okay.
Some fans are saying they've been basically useless for the past 2 seasons, and they're questioning why they keep getting so much game time.
Wow. Well, they certainly didn't hold back, did they? But is there any truth to that? Have these players really regressed that much, or is this just frustration boiling over?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are these players genuinely underperforming, or is it a systemic issue?
Yeah.
Maybe the tactics aren't playing to their strengths, or maybe the squad just needs better players around them to really unlock their potential.
Right.
So this is where the debate gets really nuanced. It speaks to this bigger question about Arteta's ability to either improve the players he has or to make those tough decisions and bring in new talent.
This is starting to feel like a detective story,
Yeah.
We've got our crime, the lack of goals and the lack of trophies, and now we're looking at the suspects, the tactics, the player selection, the overall squad. It's like we need to piece together all the evidence and see if it leads us to a definitive Arteta out verdict, and that's what we're going to do.
We will, yeah, and that's what makes this deep dive so captivating, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
It's not just some, black and white, open and shut case. There's layers here. There's conflicting narratives, passionate arguments on both sides.
Yeah, it's like we're peeling back the layers of an onion here. And with each layer, it just gets more and more complex, you know?
Yeah, more pungent.
More pungent. Yeah, exactly. And we have to remember that we're not just armchair detectives here.
Right.
This is about real people, real careers, and the hopes and dreams of millions of fans.
Millions, yeah.
So let's try to step into Arteta's shoes for a minute,
Okay.
What kind of pressure is he under?
I mean, imagine you're the manager of one of the biggest clubs in the world. A club that's steeped in history with a fan base that demands success.
Yeah, that expects success.
And, you've shown glimpses of what you can do. You've built a solid foundation. But that hunger for trophies, it's insatiable.
It is.
Every decision you make is scrutinized.
Yeah.
Every result is analyzed. Every substitution is second-guessed. I mean, the pressure must be immense.
And it's not just the external pressure, right? He's got to manage those egos in the dressing room.
Oh, yeah.
He's got to deal with the craziness of the transfer market. He's got to stay ahead of the tactical curve in a league that's constantly evolving. I mean,
It's a lot.
it is. It's a lot.
And don't forget the financial realities. Arsenal may be a giant club, but they don't have the bottomless pockets of some of their rivals.
We don't.
So Arteta has to be shrewd. He has to make every penny count, which just adds another layer of complexity to his decision making.
So while some fans might see him as stubborn or indecisive, you really got to remember that he's operating within this complex web of constraints and expectations.
Yeah, it's a tough job.
It is. But let's get back to the tactical side of things for a minute.
Okay.
One of the criticisms that we've seen is that Arteta is too reactive. That he doesn't adjust his game plan quickly enough. What do you think about that?
Well, it's a pretty common criticism of managers, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's often oversimplified. Think of it like a chess game.
Okay.
Your opponent sets up their defense, and you have to find ways to break through.
Right.
Now, if they keep using the same defense, you need to adapt your strategy, to find a way to win. And that's the challenge that Arteta's facing.
So the question isn't whether he's reactive, it's how effectively he reacts.
Exactly. Yeah. And there are examples from recent matches where he has shown tactical flexibility. But the problem is those moments are often overshadowed by the games where the team seems to be stuck in a rut.
Right.
Unable to break down a stubborn defense.
And that inconsistency is what's frustrating a lot of fans.
Yeah.
They see the potential, they see the flashes of brilliance, but they're not seeing it consistently enough.
And that brings us back to the big question. Is Arteta the right man to take Arsenal to the next level?
Yeah, the million-dollar question.
And unfortunately, there's no easy answer.
Right.
We can analyze the stats, we can dissect the tactics, we can debate his merits all day long.
Right.
But ultimately, it comes down to a matter of faith. Do you believe in his vision? Do you believe he can evolve as a manager and address those weaknesses that are holding the team back?
It's like standing at a crossroads, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can choose to trust the path he's on, believing that it'll eventually lead to where you want to go. Or you can choose a different path, hoping for a shortcut to success.
And that's the dilemma facing Arsenal fans right now.
It is.
And there's no guarantee of success either way.
No.
Sticking with Arteta could mean more short-term pain,
Right.
but maybe long-term gain. But sacking him, that brings its own uncertainties,
Yeah, who do you replace him with?
Exactly. Will the new manager be any better? Will they be able to build on what Arteta's already started?
Will he even get the time?
Right. Will they have the resources?
So we're back to that theme of patience versus urgency.
Yeah.
Do you prioritize stability and trust in the process? Or do you gamble on a change that might bring immediate results,
Right.
but could also backfire spectacularly?
And that's why this debate is so fascinating. It goes beyond just the football pitch.
It does.
It touches on these themes of leadership, loyalty, ambition, and that eternal human struggle between hope and doubt.
It's a story that's been playing out for centuries, isn't it?
It really has.
The hero's journey, the quest for glory, the inevitable setbacks, and that nagging question, is this leader, this hero, the one to take us to the promised land?
In the case of Arsenal, that question remains unanswered.
It does.
But one thing is certain, the passion of the fans, the intensity of this debate,
right,
sheer emotional investment, it all speaks to the enduring power of football.
Yeah.
Its ability to captivate our hearts and minds like no other sport.
And that's why even amidst the frustration and the uncertainty,
there's a beauty to this whole situation.
I think so.
It's a reminder that we care, that we believe that we're invested in something bigger than ourselves.
And ultimately, isn't that what being a fan is all about? The highs and lows, the triumphs and the heartbreaks, the shared journey with millions of others who feel that same passion, the same agony, the same unwavering hope.
Beautifully put. But now it's time to shift the focus from the pundits and the experts to the most important voice in all of this, yours.
The fans.
The fans. So, listener, we've examined the evidence, we've explored the arguments, we've weighed the options. Now the verdict is in your hands. So if you were in the owner's box right now, what would you do?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Would you stick with Arteta? Trust that his vision will eventually, lead to trophies?
Yeah.
Or would you say, you know what? It's time for a change. We need a fresh start.
It's a tough call.
It is.
I mean, there's no right or wrong answer here, is there?
No, not really.
It's a gut feeling,
A judgment call based on everything we've talked about. The data, the tactics, the mood of the fan base.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to weighing the risks and rewards, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you stick with Arteta, maybe there's more short-term pain.
Right.
But maybe there's a chance for long-term gain.
But then if you go for a new manager,
yeah,
it's a gamble.
Total gamble.
You might find the perfect fit, or you might end up right back where you started.
Yeah, back to square one.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole thing such a fascinating case study in leadership and decision-making. You know, it's not just about what Arteta has done or hasn't done.
Right.
It's about looking ahead,
Yeah, projecting into the future.
Making a bet on what you think will bring success.
And it's also about understanding that success can mean different things to different people.
That's true.
For some fans, it's trophies or nothing.
Right.
But for others, it's about seeing progress, Seeing a team playing with passion and purpose with a clear identity.
And that's where the debate gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because it forces us to ask ourselves, what do WE value most?
Right. What are our non-negotiables?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are we all about results or are we more interested in the journey?
The process.
Yeah, the process of building something special, even if it takes time.
It's like choosing between, a fast food meal and a slow-cooked feast.
Oh, I like that.
One gives you instant gratification, but the other one takes patience. Trust, but it promises a much more fulfilling experience in the end.
That's a great analogy.
And it really reflects the different mindsets within the fan base, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
You got some fans who are starving for silverware.
Right. They want that instant hit.
They want it now.
But then you got others who are willing to savor the process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, believing that the wait will make the eventual victory even sweeter.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the whole Arteta out saga, I want to leave you with one final thought. It's not about being right or wrong.
Right.
It's about understanding how complex this whole situation is.
Yeah.
The different narratives, you know, the emotions that are driving this debate.
It's a very human story.
It is. It is a very human story. And it's about recognizing that there are valid arguments on both sides.
Yeah.
There are no easy answers. And ultimately, the future of Arsenal is a story that's still being written.
It is. And it'll be fascinating to see how it unfolds.
It will. And as that story unfolds, you know, remember to keep questioning, keep analyzing, and keep having those passionate conversations.
Right.
That make football such a captivating sport.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time.
See ya.
Keep those discussions going. All right, let's dive into another deep dive. This one might be a little bit controversial, but we're going to be tackling the Arsenal-Everton match.
Yeah.
The one that ended in a goalless draw.
Right.
Now, I know on paper that sounds about as exciting as watching paint dry.
Yeah.
But trust me on this one.
Okay.
You wouldn't believe the tactical battles, the social media frenzy, the sheer frustration, or maybe even relief, depending on who you support, that this match generated.
Oh, yeah.
So get ready, because we're going to unpack it all.
Okay.
Fan reactions, the memes that went viral, and the deeper tactical story behind it.
Yeah, behind this result.
So what's interesting about a goalless draw like this?
Well, what's interesting is that it often reveals more than a high-scoring match.
Okay.
You know, it's like taking away all the spectacle of the goals,
right,
and it forces you to look at the underlying tactics, the mental game being played, those tiny little details that can just make or break a team's performance.
I like that.
Yeah.
So where do we even begin with a match like this? I guess we could start with one of the main talking points.
Sure.
Martin Odegaard.
Yeah.
Arsenal fans, let's just say. They weren't exactly singing his praises after that missed chance.
Right.
One tweet that I saw that really captured the mood said,
What did it say?
Odegaard needs to step up. As captain, he should be leading by example, not just in effort, but in creating those pivotal moments. So it seems like expectations are sky high for a captain.
It definitely raises the question of the burden of captaincy.
Yeah.
In the modern game, right? Like,
right.
Is it fair to put so much pressure on one player to be the leader, the goal scorer, the tactical mastermind all at once?
Yeah, because he put in the effort.
Right.
But maybe that pivotal moment creation is what was missing. It makes you wonder, is the criticism of Odegaard simply because he's captain?
Right.
Or is it a symptom of something larger, the deeper tactical issues within Arsenal?
I mean, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's hard to isolate one player's performance from the team's overall strategy.
Right.
If Arsenal's tactics aren't creating enough high-quality chances for Odegaard,
right,
can we really blame him for not converting the few he gets?
Right.
It's kind of...
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But then on the other side of the pitch, you have Everton fans absolutely ecstatic.
Oh, yeah.
With James Tarkowski's performance.
Yeah.
It was like they had witnessed a defensive masterclass.
Yeah.
One fan tweeted, and I quote,
Okay.
Tarkowski was a wall today. His positioning and tackles were on point. If we had more players like him, we'd be in a better spot.
Wow.
Talk about a stark contrast in reactions.
Yeah. I mean, Tarkowski's performance highlights just how crucial a dominant center back can be.
Yeah.
Especially in a system like Sean Dyche's.
Okay.
You know, Dyche emphasizes defensive solidity, physicality, discipline, and Tarkowski embodies all of that.
Right. But we can't ignore the elephant in the room.
Oh.
Or should I say the elephant in our social media feeds?
Okay.
The memes.
Right?
It was a full-blown meme war out there.
Yeah.
Arsenal despair versus Everton jubilation. All expressed through some hilariously relatable memes.
Yeah, I think the memes are more than just laughs, though.
Okay.
They tap into the anxieties, hopes, the experiences of fans.
Yeah.
It's almost like a collective coping mechanism, you know? But with a healthy dose of humor.
Totally. Like that one I saw.
Okay, what was it?
With a bewildered-looking character
Right.
and the caption, "When you realize Arsenal can't score again."
Right.
I mean, I laughed.
Yeah.
But it also hit a nerve.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
It reflects a real fear
Yeah.
that their team's attack is becoming predictable.
And ineffective.
Yeah. And that leads us perfectly into the tactical deep dive.
Okay, let's go.
Let's start with Arteta's Arsenal.
All right.
So on the surface,
Mhm.
they had all the hallmarks of modern possession-based football.
Yeah.
The passing, the high pressing, even those tricky inverted fullbacks.
Yeah.
But the goals were missing.
Right.
So what gives...
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Before we go any further,
Yeah.
can you quickly explain what inverted fullbacks means
Oh, of course.
for those of us
Yeah.
who aren't tactical masterminds?
Right. So imagine the fullbacks
Okay.
who traditionally stay wide,
Right.
suddenly cutting in towards the center,
Okay.
almost like
Yeah.
they're midfielders.
Oh, okay.
That's what Arteta was doing.
Okay.
He was using his fullbacks to overload the central areas and create passing options.
Yeah.
It's a tactic that can be very effective,
Okay.
but it relies on precise movement and understanding between players. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So back to Arteta,
Right.
all those fancy tactics.
Yeah.
Yet they couldn't break down Everton's defense.
Mhm.
Do you think he's too rigid in his approach? I mean, should he have adapted more during the game?
You know, that's the million-dollar question
Yeah.
that a lot of Arsenal fans are asking.
Right.
Arteta's system is visually appealing.
Right.
It can be incredibly dominant when it all clicks.
Yeah.
But this match exposed its vulnerabilities.
Okay.
What happens
Yeah.
when you face a team that sits deep, defends resolutely,
Right.
and refuses to give you space?
Right.
All that possession becomes meaningless
Yeah.
if you can't find a way to penetrate the final third.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
you know, some argue that Arteta is too reluctant to change things up,
Okay.
that his plan B is basically just hoping plan A suddenly starts working.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because on the flip side, you have Dyche's Everton.
Okay, yeah.
And their approach was very much the opposite. Gritty, defensive, counter-attacking football.
Yeah.
They seem to relish
Yeah.
frustrating Arsenal at every turn.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Is this classic Dyche ball back in action?
It was certainly a vintage Dyche performance.
Okay.
Everton were organized, disciplined,
Yeah.
and they knew exactly how to stifle Arsenal's attack.
Yeah.
They limited their chances, frustrated their key players,
Mm-hmm.
and probably even enjoyed wasting a bit of time here and there.
Right.
The question is
Yeah.
this a sustainable long-term strategy?
Yeah. It's defense wins championships.
Right.
Really a viable approach in the modern Premier League?
Mm,
Or is it just a clever way to get a point?
Yeah.
It's a team like Arsenal.
right.
I'm dying to know what happens next.
Well, to understand that,
Yeah.
we need to look closer at the fan reactions
Okay.
because they tell a story of their own.
Right.
And it's not always the story you expect.
Okay, let's do it. Let's dive into the minds of the fans and see what they thought
All right.
of this tactical chess match.
Okay.
All right, you mentioned fan reactions.
Yeah.
What were people saying after the final whistle blew?
You can imagine Arsenal fans were pretty vocal.
Okay.
I mean, their team dominated possession,
Yeah.
but couldn't buy a goal.
Right.
It's got to be frustrating
Yeah.
watching that kind of attacking impotence
Right.
week in, week out.
So was it just general disappointment?
Right.
Or was there some targeted frustration directed at specific players?
Oh,
Or even Arteta himself?
there was definitely some
Okay.
pointed criticism aimed at Arteta's tactical decisions.
Okay.
You see, when a team struggles to score,
Right.
fans naturally crave change, right?
Yeah.
They want to see substitutions,
Mm-hmm.
formation tweaks,
Yeah.
anything to shake things up and unlock the attack.
It's that classic, we need a plan B outcry.
Yeah.
But sometimes maybe the manager just trusts their initial plan, maybe even overestimates
Yeah.
how well it's going to work.
It's a tough call for any manager.
Yeah.
Sticking to your plan shows faith in your players and your system.
Right.
But sometimes
Yeah.
you do need to adapt to the opponent's setup.
Right.
Perhaps Arteta overestimated Arsenal's ability
Mm.
to break down Everton's stubborn defense.
Right.
Or maybe he felt any changes would disrupt the team's rhythm.
Okay.
It's easy for us to armchair quarterback after the match.
Right. Yeah.
But in the heat of the moment,
Right.
those decisions are never straightforward.
Speaking of heat of the moment,
Yeah.
we can't forget Jordan Pickford.
Right.
He had some absolutely crucial saves
Did.
for Everton, didn't he?
Yeah.
Maybe those were as crucial as Arsenal's lack of finishing
Yeah.
in the final third.
Pickford was undeniably Everton's man of the match.
Yeah.
He pulled off a string of spectacular saves,
Yeah.
including that one from Ødegaard
Right.
that looked destined for the back of the net. Sometimes you just have to tip your hat to the opposing goalkeeper.
Right.
And Pickford was phenomenal.
It's like those moments make you, as a fan,
Yeah.
almost respect the other team's talent, even when it's frustrating
Yeah.
your own team's ambitions.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't just about what Arsenal didn't do,
Right.
but what Everton actively did
Exactly.
to prevent them.
Yeah, and we can't talk about Everton's defensive performance
Right.
without giving credit to the entire back line.
Yeah.
They were disciplined, organized,
All right.
and incredibly difficult to break down.
Yeah.
That's classic Sean Dyche, isn't it?
Right.
He's known for
Oh.
building teams that are defensively robust
Mm-hmm.
and incredibly frustrating to play against.
But is that style of play enough to
No.
actually win consistently
Yeah,
in the modern game?
it's a valid question,
Yeah.
and one
Yeah.
that sparks a lot of debate among fans
Right.
and pundits,
Mm-hmm.
Can you build a title-winning team
Yeah.
around a primarily defensive foundation?
Right.
Or are you destined to be a mid-table side,
Right.
capable of upsetting the big boys,
Mm.
but lacking the attacking firepower
Yeah.
to truly challenge for trophies?
That's the thing with football tactics.
Mm.
It's almost like an ongoing experiment.
Yeah.
You have teams like Manchester City who've achieved incredible success
Yeah.
with their possession-based
Yeah.
attacking style.
Uh-huh.
But then you have teams like Atletico Madrid
Right.
who have proven that a more pragmatic
Yeah.
defense-first approach can also bring silverware.
Exactly.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
What works for one team
Yeah.
might not work for another.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating
Yeah.
is how the tactical pendulum
Yeah.
seems to swing back and forth over time.
I like that.
Yeah.
The tactical pendulum.
Yeah.
So in this match, we essentially saw one end of that pendulum
Right.
with Arsenal's possession-heavy style. Yeah.
And the other end with Everton's more defensive,
Mm-hmm.
counterattacking approach,
I got it.
and the result,
Yeah.
a stalemate,
Right.
which in itself tells a story.
Yeah.
It suggests that while both approaches have their merits,
Mm-hmm.
neither is inherently superior.
Right.
I guess the true test is whether these teams
Yeah.
can maintain their chosen styles over a whole season
Exactly.
against different opponents
Right.
under varying pressures.
Yeah.
And this was just one match.
You raise a crucial point.
Yeah.
Consistency is key in football.
Right.
Can Arsenal consistently unlock stubborn defenses?
Mm-hmm.
Can Everton replicate this defensive masterclass
Right.
against teams with more attacking firepower than Arsenal?
Yeah.
That's what we'll be watching for
Yeah.
in the coming weeks and months.
Okay, so while we can't predict the future of either team based on this one result,
Right.
it definitely provides some intriguing talking points.
Yeah.
What do you think stood out to you most?
From a purely tactical perspective,
Oh.
was it Arteta's rigidity, Everton's organization, or something else entirely?
For me,
Yeah.
it was the stark contrast in approaches.
Okay.
Seeing Arteta's unwavering belief
Yeah.
in his possession-based system
Mm-hmm.
clash with Dyche's pragmatism
Yeah.
was fascinating.
Okay.
And it also highlighted a fundamental tension
Right.
within football.
Yeah.
The tension between
Yeah.
playing aesthetically pleasing football
Mm-hmm.
and prioritizing efficiency and results.
Ooh, that's deep.
Yeah.
And I bet our listeners are grappling with that very question right now.
Right.
Would they rather see their team win ugly,
Yeah.
grinding out results,
Right.
or lose beautifully
Yeah.
while sticking to an idealistic style?
It's a question that goes to the heart of what we value as football fans.
Right.
Do we prioritize entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
flair,
Yeah.
and attacking dominance?
Yeah.
Or are we content
Mm-hmm.
with a more pragmatic, results-oriented approach?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
to leave our listeners pondering.
Right.
But before we completely wrap up,
Yeah.
I think there's one more layer
Okay.
to this match.
Right.
We haven't explored the psychological impact
Right.
of a goalless draw.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
The mental game.
Yeah.
How did this result affect the confidence, the momentum,
Yeah.
the self-belief of both teams?
Right.
That's a question worth exploring, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So you've got me thinking now, how does a match like this, with no clear winner, affect the teams moving forward? Is it a psychological blow
Right.
to a team like Arsenal, who are expected to win?
Yeah.
Or is it just a blip on the radar?
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because on paper, a draw away to a team like Everton shouldn't be a disaster for a club like Arsenal.
Right.
But
Yeah.
when you factor in their ambitions,
Yeah.
their recent form, the way they dominated the game but failed to score, it can definitely leave a dent in their confidence.
It's like all that unfulfilled potential just hangs in the air.
Yeah.
So let's flip the script. What about a team like Everton?
Right.
Does a hard-fought draw against a top team like Arsenal feel more like a victory?
Yeah.
Does it fuel their belief?
You could definitely argue
Okay.
that holding a team like Arsenal with their attacking talent
Yeah.
to a goalless draw
Right.
at your home ground,
Yeah.
that's a statement.
Right.
It shows their resilience, their tactical discipline,
Right.
and it reinforces the belief that Dyche's system can actually work against the big boys.
So potentially two very different psychological outcomes
Right.
from the same result.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It is interesting.
But stepping back for a moment,
Okay.
what does this match tell us about the bigger picture of the Premier League? I mean, we've seen a few surprising results this season.
Yeah.
Are we witnessing a shift in the balance of power?
It's an intriguing question for a long time. The
Yeah.
Premier League has been dominated by a select few clubs,
Right.
but we're seeing more and more teams like
Yeah.
Everton
Right.
who are well-organized,
Right.
tactically astute, and capable of causing upsets.
It's like the playing field is leveling out a bit.
Yeah.
Teams are realizing that they don't have to be a financial powerhouse
Right.
to compete at the highest level. They can achieve success through smart recruitment, tactical discipline, and a strong collective spirit.
Precisely.
Okay.
And that's what makes the Premier League so compelling.
Right.
The unpredictability, the competitiveness,
Yeah.
the sense that any team can beat any other on their day.
So we've analyzed the tactics, the fan reactions, the psychological implications. What's the takeaway for our listeners? What should they be pondering after this deep dive?
I think the biggest takeaway is that football is a multifaceted sport.
Okay.
There's so much more to it than just the scoreline.
Yeah.
You have the tactical battles, the individual brilliance,
Right.
the collective spirit,
Yeah.
the psychological warfare,
Right.
and the wider narratives that surround each match.
And as fans, we shouldn't just be passive observers.
Right.
We should be actively engaging with all those layers,
Yeah.
asking questions, debating different viewpoints, and appreciating the complexity of this beautiful game.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This match was a perfect example of that.
Right.
A seemingly uneventful, goalless draw sparks so much discussion, so much analysis,
Yeah.
and so many different perspectives. And that's what makes football so captivating.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. You just keep discovering new insights and new questions to explore.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I hope this deep dive has encouraged our listeners to do just that, to keep peeling back those layers, to keep questioning,
Yeah.
and to keep discovering the hidden depths of this beautiful game.
Well said.
Thank you.
So to wrap things up,
Okay.
I guess the question for our listeners is this.
Right.
What will you be watching for in the next round of matches? Will you be paying closer attention to the tactical nuances,
Yeah.
the psychological battles, the individual performances?
Right.
Or maybe you'll be keeping an eye out for those hilarious memes that perfectly capture the drama and absurdity of football.
Whatever it is, I hope you enjoy it.
Right.
Because that's what it's all about, isn't it? The joy, the passion, the shared experience of following the beautiful game.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration of the world of football.